In France, the national railway SNCF has dominated the high-speed market since its inauguration in 1981, but this is rapidly changing thanks to some very promising challenges. One of these is Trenitalia, set to conquer Europe with its gorgeous flagship, the Frecciarossa 1000, and having just launched a new service between Marseille, France's second largest city, and Paris, the French capital, they're going from strength to strength. We'll be checking out this new service on its inaugural ride as we see why SNCF need to watch their backs. Now join me as the journey continues. Bienvenue à Marseille Saint-Charles, the main station serving France's second largest city and where our journey begins. It's hard to believe it's been almost 2 years since I last came here. Despite the city's reputation, this is, in my opinion, one of France's more pleasant stations. Opened in 1848, Saint-Charles still contains much of this near 200-year history within its design, despite the addition of the multiple shops and amenities within it to bring it up to speed with the 21st century. The introduction of TGV services here in 2001 have dramatically reduced travel times to Paris and northern France, resulting in an uplift of passengers to over 17 million in normal traffic. This can make the station less enjoyable to navigate, but that's easily forgivable when you walk alongside the trees that blend well with this station's aesthetically pleasing design. Currently, the majority of services here are operated by the French National Railway SNCF, but there's a lot of change afoot. When I was last here in 2023, it was to try out Spanish operator Renfe's new open access service to Madrid. On the 29th of June, local services in the Côte d'Azur region will transfer from SNCF to Transdev, and as of the day of recording this video, a new high-speed service has been launched from this station to Paris, and we'll be catching the very first one, number 6104 to Paris Gare de Lyon, departing at 0652. SNCF previously ran a monopoly on the Paris to Marseille high-speed route since its 2001 inauguration. Currently, SNCF runs these services under both its premium TGV inOui and low-cost Ouigo brands, primarily using TGV duplex trains. But thanks to the liberalisation of the European high-speed rail market, the Italian state railway Trenitalia has been operating its high-speed Frecciarossa brand in France on an open access basis since 2021. Initially between Paris, Lyon and Milan, and as of now 4 return services a day between Paris and Marseille. In addition to Marseille, Trenitalia is also planning further expansions elsewhere in France to cities such as Strasbourg, and even to the neighbouring countries of Spain and the UK, the latter of which would be in partnership with Evelyn, who announced intentions to run the route around 2 years ago now. But that's not what we're here for today. We're called to board around 20 minutes before departure, and as is the norm for French high-speed rail, all passengers must go through a pre-departure ticket check, and man is it busy. For its services in and out of France, Trenitalia uses a special pool of 8-carriage Frecciarossa 1000 trains, which are authorised for use in France as well as Italy. This is the flagship of Trenitalia, built by a consortium of Hitachi and Bombardier, now Alstom, between 2013 and 2022, with Hitachi becoming the sole constructor of a new batch of 40 units from 2022 onwards. These trains have a maximum design speed of 360 km per hour and reach close to 400 km per hour during testing. However, they only reach up to 300 km per hour in regular passenger service. Since the Frecciarossa 1000's construction, the model has seen commercial success across Western Europe. A brand new batch of 20 units were built for Trenitalia's Spanish domestic operations, branded Erdio, which has been reviewed on the channel before. Unlike the TGV, which has 2 classes of travel on most of its routes, the Frecciarossa has 4 classes of travel. For this trip, I'm in business class, which is the second highest offering, making up 2 coaches, and I'm in carriage 2, the quiet carriage. I'll get into the other classes of travel as we get going, but for now, let's get on board. The Frecciarossa 1000 has the same problem as most European high-speed trains in that there's no level boarding, but the boarding process is much smoother than a TGV thanks to the door and carriage layout. Business class is in a 2x1 configuration, with mostly table seats, but a few airline ones here and there, such as seat 18D where I'm sitting. Luggage storage is available using overhead racks, and if you have larger items, no need to worry. There are plenty of larger racks just by the vestibules. For today's route, we'll be travelling on 3 high-speed lines en route to Paris, with intermediate stops at Aix-en-Provence, Avignon and Lyon, as we leave the French Riviera and progress onwards towards Paris. We'll eventually arrive into the French capital at 18 minutes past 10, meaning our Frecciarossa will make a journey time of 3 hours and 26 minutes to cover a distance of 750 kilometres. We leave Marseille Saint-Charles right on time. So far so good. As we leave France's second largest city behind, keep an eye out on the left for the sidings where a number of Corail coaches and Nicas locomotives are stabled, which will soon be a sight of the past in a few weeks following the Transdev takeover from SNCF. The only bit of conventional line running we'll be doing on this trip is leaving Marseille and entering Paris, and even then this is very brief, especially compared to the high speed running we'll be doing throughout. After one last view of the French Riviera, we enter our first high speed line of the trip, the LGV Méditerranée, and we run briefly at high speed before entering our first stop of Aix-en-Provence TGV just over 10 minutes later, and after a brief stop here to pick up a few passengers, we're back on the move. We now continue along the LGV Méditerranée, passing through its stunning Mediterranean landscape. The line, which was inaugurated in the early 2000s, was designed to operate up to speeds of 320 km per hour, which our Frecciarossa set is unable to achieve in regular passenger service. Still, the Frecciarossa 1000 wastes no time in reaching the still respectable 300 km per hour, which it's currently authorised to achieve in passenger service in both Italy and France. I wonder if there are any plans to raise this in the future given Trenitalia's ambitious growth plans in France? I'm sure someone can answer this to me in the comments below, but for now, let's move on to the features of business class. In all honesty, the seat is quite comfortable but lacks in padding in my opinion, but this is compensated by a great ergonomic design. At the end of each seat is a foldable armrest, the one window side having a button to operate the seat's recline, which is fairly modest. Given I was at an airline seat for most of the journey, I was able to fully appreciate the legroom, which is absolutely fantastic, and even the footrest was more tolerable than I normally find on other trains I've reviewed in the past. The back of the seat features a simple tray table which, whilst not as large as a TGV, is still a respectable size and more than suitable for enjoying a meal or working from. Need to charge your device? Well, there's both a USB-A and 220V power socket just below the seat, and there's also a bin just by the window. The table seats on the other hand include foldable sections to allow for easier movement, with the bins smartly concealed in separate sections just next to them. Coat hooks can be found at the back of the seat or just by the windows, with a draw-down blind also being present to help reduce any harsh sunlight, which for most of this trip didn't seem to matter. On the whole, a brilliant and well thought out interior design that checks a lot of the boxes. Great job, Trenitalia. One difference to the French TGV is that the Frecciarossa offers light snacks and a drink in their business class offer. It wasn't much, I just got a biscuit and a bottle of water this morning, but it's still appreciated, especially with the warm weather which France was having over the weekend. Stops on the LGV Méditerranée are pretty close together. Around 20 minutes after leaving Aix-en-Provence, we arrive into Avignon TGV. As with all intermediate stops on this trip, this is a typical out-of-town high-speed station on the French high-speed rail network, with there being an hourly shuttle between the station and the town centre. After leaving Avignon TGV, be sure to sit on the right-hand side towards Paris. You'd otherwise normally be able to see the Palais des Papes, one of the most important medieval Gothic buildings in Europe, on the Pont d'Avignon. Sadly, being a single-decker train, the views are not as great on the Frecciarossa 1000 compared to a double-decker TGV duplex. However, we can still somewhat see it as we cross over the bridge. Now let's take a look at the rest of the train. The second business class carriage, Coach 3, It's not a quiet coach, but it's otherwise the same layout as Carriage 2 where I'm sat. There's also a dedicated space for wheelchair users that also features a fold-down seat, as well as a wheelchair accessible toilet. This is very spacious, and being the first service of the day, was very clean too. The same can be said about the standard toilets, which are found in all carriages excluding Carriage 3. Definitely a lot more spacious than on any aircraft you'll find on domestic flights in France. At the end of Carriage 3 is the cafe bar where you can purchase drinks and snacks, but I'll come back to this a little bit later. Coach 4 is the premium class coach, which for some reason is marketed as a standard coach in France. This features brownish seating, and in Italy a welcome drink is included, but otherwise it isn't materially different from standard in all honesty, so just as well it isn't sold out as a premium in France. That brings me on to the main standard class section, which, as the name suggests, is the lowest class of travel available and makes up half of the 8-car consist. The seating is still comfortable enough despite being narrower than business, and a good option if you don't want to pay extra for business, with prices starting at €32 on the Paris to Marseille route. Oh wait, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, that's right, the big one. Executive class. Honestly, this is the best first class experience in Europe and something I'd love to do again. On the Frecciarossa 1000, there are only 10 seats in this exclusive accommodation, which makes up the rear driving vehicle, with all food and drink covered in the ticket price. There's even a meeting room here too, which can be booked for business conferences and whatnot in advance. Prices start at a whopping €180 for executive class, so it's definitely more of a treat than something to do regularly. Those of you who've been here for a while will know I reviewed executive class between Paris and Milan with Trenitalia France several years back, and if you remember there was a rather cool, yet annoying vinyl wrap on the driving vehicles. I'm pleased to say that with the new Frecciarossa livery now applied to the fleet, the vinyls are gone, so that means no views being spoiled, thankfully. We're now entering the second and shortest high-speed line of the trip, the LGV Rhône-Alpes, which links the LGVs Méditerranée and Sud-Est to provide a through route between Marseille, Lyon and Paris, France's 3 largest cities. We enter this after passing Valence TGV non-stop, again at speeds of 300 km per hour. Between here and Lyon, I ended up doubling back to the cafe car to get a snack. Sadly, this is worse than the TGV bar, as there's nowhere really to sit and it's a smaller space, but I do think the food selection's a lot better than what you would get on the TGV. The menu's linked in the description below, and here's what I bought for reference. We're now arriving into our final intermediate stop of Lyon Saint-Exupéry TGV, which provides links between France's extensive high-speed rail network and Lyon Saint-Exupéry Airport, as opposed to the central Lyon stations of Part-Dieu and Perrache, which are served by the Paris to Lyon and by extension Milan Frecciarossa services. Lyon city centre is linked to this station by a dedicated and frequent tram service. Stopping times here vary by train, with our train only stopping here for a mere 3 minutes before the final 2-hour non-stop blast up to Paris. After Saint-Exupéry, we join the final high-speed line of the trip, the LGV Sud-Est, which will take us all the way to Paris. This is the first high-speed line to have been constructed and put into operation in France, which has been carrying high-speed traffic since 1981 and reduced journey times between Paris and Lyon from almost 6 hours to just under 2 hours for the fastest services. Today, the line is also the most widely used in France and arguably the busiest high-speed line in Europe, carrying an average of 240 trains per day at 300 km per hour, not only domestically but also internationally to Italy, Spain and Switzerland. Now, one last thing I needed to try before the journey ended was the Wi-Fi, which according to Trenitalia is as fast as this train is. And they aren't wrong. For a high-speed train, the connection was incredibly fast and also grants access to the Freccia portal, where you can watch TV shows and movies, amongst other things. I mostly used it to catch up on social media and do some work, before I ended up just enjoying the scenery along the route as we reached journey's end. So now that we've exited the LGV Sud-Est and are entering the Parisian suburbs, well, what are my thoughts? It's refreshing to finally see Trenitalia doing what many other operators initially failed to do, successfully provide strong competition against SNCF. The product is there and again proves that Trenitalia knows how to provide a solid high-speed rail service. I would suggest that they remove the premium carriage designation on the dedicated French Frecciarossa pool to avoid confusion, and I wish they'd have a proper dining car like on the German ICE, but regardless, I highly recommend their domestic services in France. This is one operator SNCF really need to be scared of. For today's journey, I booked directly through the Trenitalia app and paid €65 in business class a few weeks in advance over the €49 standard class fare, though fares in business class can start at a mere €45. Fares are dynamically priced and vary based on demand, so as always I recommend booking in advance to get the best fares. I still think €65 for a journey of this distance in business class isn't terrible value for money, especially compared to SNCF who charge similar prices and don't even include a welcome drink or a snack, just the bigger seat. Anyway, as we pass the Technocentre Sud-Est Européen, we draw closer to Paris Gare de Lyon, where we arrive bang on time without significant disruptions or fanfare. Pretty good going for an inaugural ride. Now you've heard from me, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the Frecciarossa's French expansion? Have you tried it before and do you think it will be a commercial success? Let me know in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and share it if you did to aid the channel's growth, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content such as this weekly. Right, I'm off to go catch the RER and head off to Gare du Nord for my Eurostar home. Thanks so much for coming with me on this trip, and I look forward to bringing you with me on my next one.